How you doing, guys? Welcome back to another J&A podcast. I'm Aaron, and on the other side is JJ. How you doing, JJ?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good, man. Yeah. So what are we gonna be hitting on today, JJ?
Well, we're going to start out with some NFL news that's been happening since the last time we did the podcast, and then maybe we might touch on some other things, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. We're talking about AFC records for the 16 teams in the AFC. All divisions, all the records, and maybe a few Ys here and there. We'll get to that when the time comes.
I like it. You didn't even give me time to write down records, JJ. Jeez.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. Might be a little bit of improv on the other side. Who knows?
Find out next episode.
Yep, that's it. Just playing.
All right. Well, who you want me to do honors? Or you want to probably about? I'll let you do it. Let's talk about. You know what?
We got a few
New
things.
York Giant.
We got a few things to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
We're going to start out with the newly highest paid receiver in football. We're talking Odell Beckham Jr. He gets a 5-year extension worth $95 million, which is a base salary of $19 million per year, $65 million guaranteed. How are you feeling about the contract, and does he deserve to be the highest paid receiver?
All right, so this is how I feel about this, okay?
Okay.
I have two different perspectives of it. I feel like he doesn't deserve it for a reason, and I feel like he doesn't deserve it for a reason, okay? I feel like he deserves it because that's how good of a receiver he is, truly to me. But yet again, I feel like he doesn't deserve it because look at like Julio and Antonio Brown's contracts. Nothing like you got the best receiver 1A 1B that's not even making more than the third best receiver. Like you see the issue there?
Yeah.
So that's what I feel about that Odell contract. Now, once Julio and AB, catch up and they become the first and second, then I will change it and say yes, he deserves it. But for right now, you see where I'm going.
I think we have like similar outlooks on it, like yes and no. So my yes is because he was the hottest upcoming free agent at the position. And what we've seen in sports the last like 4 years, especially considering now it's a money league, and it's been more of a money league in this time period than ever. When you're a big name player at that position, you're dictating the market. So number one, it's a win for all receivers, and number two, he gets to go home as the highest paid receiver. And keep in mind, by the way, his base salary is only $3 million over Sammy Watkins' base salary, which is $16 million. So keep that in mind.
That's crazy to think about.
Sammy Watkins is now the 6th highest paid receiver thanks to Odell Beckham Jr. And let's see here. No, because of the names we brought up. Julio, Antonio Brown, depending on who you ask. Because it's a real conversation of, is DeAndre Hopkins better or is Odell better than DeAndre? It's a real discussion. So depending on who you ask, we'll just throw his name in there for the hell of it. No, because I feel like those guys, or at least AB and Julio for sure, better than Odell. But the wide receiver market has been dictated by whether or not you're free. And that's when you get the money. And now decent receivers, your wide receiver 2s, 3s, and 4s, they're going to be making a lot of money as well. They're going to feed off that wide receiver market, which has now been dictated by guys like Sammy Watkins, Allen Robinson, and Odell Beckham.
All right, what is some other topics around the NFL that we feel like our viewers should know?
As of today, this news actually came out today. Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap from the Cincinnati Bengals did get contract extensions. Carlos Dunlap got a 3-year extension worth $45 million, I believe. So he's going to be signed under contract until 2021. And Geno Atkins, I believe Geno Atkins got a 4-year extension worth $65.3 million. So he's going to be signed until like 2022, I believe. So the Bengals keeping their guys in-house, keeping 2 of their key defensive linemen in-house. How do you feel about that?
Really good. I like it. Obviously, it's always tough to lose players, and they didn't, so it's always a win. So.
Now, I will say this. I will say this now. Geno Atkins is 30, and Carlos Dunlap, I believe, is 31 or 32. Just saying. I'm not saying like they can't play, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I still have to stick with the whole, like, at least you didn't lose them type deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, they're both former Pro Bowl players. Geno Atkins a constant Pro Bowl presence, so definitely good on their part for keeping the core intact. Really, the third big piece of news is that Josh Gordon is ready to go for Week 1. Now, you guys may remember during the training camp sessions and all that, he wasn't there. He was taking time away from football to really get his life in order and get his life going. A lot of demons he's been battling, especially with like drugs and alcohol, and recently child support with his baby moms and all that. I gotta tell you, man, I'm hoping to see some great things from Josh Gordon. How do you feel about the situation?
Honestly, Cleveland fans, don't be worried. I've said this in different ways at different times. Josh Gordon, he knows that offense. You don't have to worry about it. I feel like he's still gonna be a great receiver. Everybody has issues in some point in their life, and he chose to deal with it that way. Don't hate on him for it. He's great. Now, the reason I say that is because now someone like Jarvis Landry didn't show up to camp. That would have been an issue. Don't know that offense. You know what I'm saying? Josh
Yeah.
Gordon got a roll of things. He'll come back. And he'll be great. He'll be fine. Just don't worry, guys.
I feel like if we can see anything like rookie year Josh Gordon, who is starting to take the league by storm, have those 200-yard games, if we can see anything like that, Cleveland, you better lock him up.
I call personally at least one 200-yard game this year.
Okay. I hope so. Like I said, for
I ain't
him.
gonna be like how I normally am. I normally love making cool predictions and stuff, but I can't do it this time. I am gonna say I'm gonna go on the second two.
Okay, well, I hope so for his sake, and I mean, honestly, I think everyone's proud of you, Josh, for getting back on track and taking full advantage of this second chance. Because let's be real, man, once you screw up, that's kind of it. So when you get a second opportunity, it's really crucial that you take all the steps necessary to get back to where you need to be. And I feel like Josh Gordon is now locked and loaded, and he's ready to go this year.
Yeah, no doubt. There's some other stuff that we should let the viewers know before we get into our main slice of cake.
I mean, that's really it for major news, is like those three topics that we had to hit on. Unless there was something that went down.
Well, with that, I'll let you be the judge on how we start this, how we start our segment, or how we start our predictions.
How we start our predictions? Okay.
Like, where do we start at in the AFC? We're pretty much game plan.
Okay, well, I'm thinking we start with the AFC East and we end it with the AFC West.
So go with the AFC East.
Correct. Yeah, starting with
So
that
the
division.
Bills and all that.
Yeah. By the way, guys, this is only the AFC. You'll have to catch part 2 after we upload this to the YouTube channels.
All right. Well,
just putting it out
I
there.
don't know about you, but you ready to get started?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're ready to go.
I'm gonna start it off with the AFC East, and how we're going to do this, by the way, people, is we're just going to name off our 4 records, and we're going to talk about why, just to get things straight to the point.
Yeah.
So I have for fourth and third place, I have the Bills and Dolphins tied at a 5-11.
Okay.
Then I go to second place with the Jets at 6-10. And then for final, everybody probably knows this, I have the Patriots going at 11-5. The reason I did this is because I started thinking about it, and the Bills, I mean, you got a tight end at quarterback right now, and you can't win games with a tight end at quarterback. I'm sorry. Personally, the guy that I think should be the starter is hurt right now, and they're not going to start him even if he wasn't hurt, so that kind of upsets me. The Dolphins, I mean, you have Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. He has to show me something before I go riding. Pretty much that. The Jets, they got Sam Darnold. I don't hate Sam Darnold. I just don't think he's as good as he is hyped up to be. He can get him some wins, though. He can win at least 6 wins with that team around him. Nothing better, though. And the Patriots, I mean, not that good of a receiving core, but Tom Brady is great. what he can do. I truly believe he can, with that team, he can get him to at least 11-5. And it is a team sport, and you can't sleep on the defensive additions. But I'll let you talk about that because I know you've been talking about it a lot lately, so I'm not going to steal you.
Well, thank you, and I love defense, by the way. I think it's very important to have. I love defense, and I think it's important to have one. We're going to talk about a lot of really good offenses in the AFC as well as the NFC for the next portion, but for the next video or whatever. But I feel like you really have to have a good defense that can hold it down, or at least a defense that can get the ball back into the offense's hands, your offense's hands. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this. For fourth place, I have the Miami Dolphins at 4-12, and I think they're gonna have the #1 pick next year in the draft. The Buffalo Bills at 5-11, the New York Jets at 6-10, and I have the Patriots clinching the #1 seed in the AFC at 12-4. Now the Dolphins, they lost Jarvis Landry, they lost Ndamukong Suh. I do like what they did in the draft, though. I will say that they drafted Minkah Fitzpatrick in the first round, Mike Gesicki in the second round, and I think they drafted a linebacker. I think his name's like Jerome Baker. They drafted him in like round 4. Pretty solid player right there. I feel like when you lose 2 superstar players or 2 star quality players at their positions, you can kind of put 3 or 4 decent players there. I don't think it equals that one superstar. Like, I know they got Danny Amendola and Albert Wilson to round out the receiving core. I just don't know, like, if that's going to be enough to cover up Jarvis Landry's absence this upcoming year. And like you said with Tannehill, he's got to show me something, because if he ain't getting it done this year, they might have to look at drafting a quarterback. Now with Buffalo, yeah, I do like your tight end reference right there. Fun fact, Josh Allen has better catching than Lamar Jackson in Madden. I thought I could just point that out real quick. Kind of surprised me too. Your quarterbacks are Nathan Peterman, A.J. McCarron, and Josh Allen. Like, you had Tyrod Taylor, the dude who got you to the playoffs, and you pretty much just gave up on him. So you guys deserve to miss the playoffs as far as I'm concerned. They do run the ball very well, and their secondary is well-rounded, so I got to give them that. They do 2 things pretty good. I'm just concerned about the rest of their team. The New York Jets, yeah. I think Teddy Bridgewater should be the starter. I know Sam Darnold, they want to rush him out there, high draft pick. They want him to get the exposure of what it's like to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I get that. I get that 100%, but I feel like there's different ways to approach every quarterback situation. And I feel like with this one, man, he can really benefit from not only spending time with Josh McCown and Teddy Bridgewater, but just sitting on the bench, learning the playbook, talking to Josh McCown, because Josh McCown's a journeyman. He's played for, over 25% of the league. I mean, he's played on a lot of different teams. He can tell you what it's like in every situation. And Teddy Bridgewater, a guy who's been banged up, has concussion history, knee injuries, he can tell you, how important it is to be durable and be aware of your surroundings. I feel like he'll benefit a lot from learning instead of just being thrown right into the fire. And, if you're trying to trade Teddy Bridgewater, if that's your trade package or your trade piece to get a pass rusher at the deadline, you need to display that trade piece throughout the first 8 weeks, if that is your plan. And for the Patriots, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady equal success. I mean, they're going to struggle early on. They tend to try to get things figured out by week 5, and I think they may even start out 2-2 or maybe 3-1. Who knows? But I do know this: constant playoff presence. The defense, they did get Malcolm Brown, or they have Malcolm Brown coming into his 4th season. He's been improving every year. They got Danny Shelton via trade. They got Jason McCourty via trade to play with his brother Devin McCourty, who's a free safety. They got Trey Flowers, who's coming back for another season. They got Adrian Claiborne, who had 6 sacks against Dallas. Shout out to Chaz Green giving up all those sacks for Dallas. Their linebackers, they get Dante Hightower back, man. They get the glue for that front 7. And that secondary is still going to be good, because even though they lost Malcolm Butler, they were able to get Jason McCourty to fill in that cornerback #1 spot with Stephon Gilmore and Jonathan Jones and Eric Rowe and all those guys. So I think the Patriots will be a good team this year, no doubt.
Of course, I have to agree with that.
All right, man, I appreciate it. And even though the Patriots and the Bills and the Jets are technically in the North region, we're going to go to the AFC North. the division with the Bengals, Browns, Ravens, and Steelers. Take it away, Aaron.
All right. So, which division East would you like to hit on?
Division after the East? The North.
We're gonna go to the North. Do we have anything else to say about the East?
Unless you want to add something, then probably not.
Alright, well, I guess we're going to the North. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, so at the bottom, again, I have something tied. It's not gonna happen that often. I have something tied for the last in the division, and that's gonna be the Bengals and the Browns at 6-10. And then at third place, I have the Ravens at 8-8, and then first, Steelers at 11-5. The reason that I was going to have the Browns at 8-8, but then I thought to myself, alright, be realistic. We still got Hugh Jackson at coach. So I bumped him down, but I made him lose 2 games. I didn't want to. Then you have the Bengals. I mean, literally, you got AJ Green. And the reason I haven't, I know I'm going to say this like it's crazy, but the reason I haven't that many games is because of their running back, Joe Mixon. A lot of people sleep on him. I'm not. He's going to be a big playmaker.
That's my guy.
The Ravens, I have them going 8-8. Joe Flacco, the reports are true. Best camp of his whole career. I'm ready to see it. You have a pretty good team around you. They've shown that they have a good team around them. What they do is what they do. Steelers at 11-5. You have Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, AB, Juju. So this is your offense. I'll get to the defense later. This is your offense. You got one of the best receivers, 1A, 1B, best running back. You got a top 10 quarterback. You got a top. I'm just gonna say this, not hurt anybody's feelings. I'm just to give a number out there. You have a top 10 receiving core, obviously better than that. And I mean, that's right there is just dirty on itself. That actually has experience, unlike some other teams that we'll get to later. And then that defense, I mean, you got TJ Watt. I mean, you got some good players, and I truly feel that they can go 11-5, no problem, based on the AFC.
All right, good stuff right there. Good stuff right there. I did make a slight change as well, and I'll get to it when that change comes about. Tied for last place, so the 4th place team, I'll say first, and then the 3rd place team, so that way no one gets confused. At 5-11 in 4th place, I have the Cincinnati Bengals, followed by the Cleveland Browns in 3rd place, both at 5-11. I'm going to give Cleveland the tiebreaker there. The Baltimore Ravens, I have at 9-7. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, I did have them at 11-5. I think I'm going to give them 10-6, and I'm going to go ahead and explain why. So, Cincinnati, I don't trust Marvin Lewis. This team has talent. They were able to re-sign Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins like we talked about in the beginning portion of the show. Joe Mixon, my boy Aaron brought it up, and I interrupted him. I was like, that's my guy, because I like Joe Mixon. I liked him coming out. I know he had his issues. Whatever. I'm more concerned about the player, not the character. You know, this ain't acting class. AJ Green, top 5 wide receiver. Tyler Eifert, a top 7 tight end when healthy. The offensive line does suck, but they were able to bring in Billy Price at center. So hopefully he'll be able to contribute right away. Andy Dalton, you know, as much crap as me and Aaron give him, because I'm not really a huge fan of him, that's one thing that has remained consistent is that he is the starting quarterback, and every year you know who the starting quarterback is going to be, and that's Andy Dalton. So I will give the Bengals that. With Cleveland, I know Hugh Jackson wants it to be the greatest turnaround in sports history. I'm not really sure if he's necessarily involved in that, because 5-11 isn't a turnaround. 5-11 is progress. And Tyrod Taylor is a winning quarterback. He's capable of winning. Granted, he just got the Bills out of a 17 or 18-year drought of the playoffs. He was able to be the leading quarterback.
Can you necessarily say that, though, even though the coach was dumb enough to bench him for some games?
Well, yeah, granted, he benched him for like a half until Tyrod Taylor had to save Nathan Peterman's ass. But yeah, I mean, I would say he led them there, even though the coach wasn't fully confident in Tyrod. He did it. I mean, Nathan Peterman threw 5 picks against the Chargers. That was a great day to own the Chargers defense in fantasy. Trust me, I had him. So, anywho, enough fantasy talk. I do like the additions they've been making, and probably the biggest offseason addition. You know, we talked Jarvis Landry and adding Baker and adding Denzel Ward. Probably the biggest offseason addition, General Manager John Dorsey, coming from Kansas City to Cleveland.
Yeah.
He has been able to. I mean, he wants change just as bad as the next guy, but he's actually made moves to bring change to Cleveland, and I think that is a positive for the organization. Out with the old, in with John Dorsey. Baltimore, depending on the predictions, we'll probably talk about it later, may or may not be a wild card team. You did mention Joe Flacco. They drastically improved at the wide receiver spot. Alex Collins, their running back, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm going to say this. He led the league in yards per carry, and he was a top 10 fantasy running back. So some fun facts right there about Alex Collins. They shut out 3 teams last year, okay? The Bengals, week 1. They shut out the Dolphins, and they shut out the Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers. But 3 shutouts nonetheless. And probably the most impressive game was the Dolphins. Probably the most impressive game all year. I mean, to beat a team 40-0, yeah, that's pure dominance right there. Their defense is definitely going to be a top 10 unit. They may not have the biggest names out there, but they all play collectively as a unit. And the Steelers, just real quick, the Steelers, they did make a key upgrade, bringing in Morgan Burnett, who's a versatile safety. Could probably come in the box at times too, when guys like Vince Williams gets tired. The Steelers, man, you've already touched on it. That offensive line too. Pretty good offensive line. And Big Ben, that's the one thing that's been constant about him. He's had a run game. He's had at least 2 good receivers, and he's had a pretty good offensive line throughout his whole career. So shout out to the Steelers for being consistent and keeping Big Ben at bay. All right, bay.
All right. Great points. Are you ready to go into the AFC? Which one would you rather do? West or the South?
We're gonna go to the South.
All right. You want me to start again?
Sure, yeah. You've been doing a good job at that.
Starting at the bottom of the pack, it is not a tie. The Colts at 5-11. Second place, you got the Titans at 9-7. Third place, or second place, you got the Texans at 10-6, and in first place, you got the Jaguars at 12-4. A lot of people have their opinions about Titans. I'll hit that in just a second. I want to start with the Colts. The reason I had the Colts at 5-11, Andrew Luck, first season back in a while where he is not injured, and what something that JJ was telling me about earlier was there's actually reports that he has a hurt foot. We'll keep you updated. And that there's not that much good of a team around you, brother. You got T.Y. Hilton and some other players, but that's about it. And we'll see where that goes. But you're gonna have to show me something. Okay, then you got the Titans at 9-7. You got Mariota and them, but I had to see more, and I hope I do see more. Pretty good team. I want to see them win. Texans 10-6. Deshaun Watson's back. Big fan of Deshaun Watson. I feel like he can get him 10 wins because of his playmaking ability. Again, it's a team sport, so that offense is going to have to help on DeAndre Hopkins, like he was talking earlier. 3rd or 4th receiver in the league. That would definitely help that offense. And then let's get to the Jaguars. I have them at 12-4. Only one other team is at 12-4 on my predictions. And the reason I have them at 12-4 is because of that roster. That defense, man. Literally, Blake Bortles is known as a playoff quarterback, and I truly feel like that defense can get them to the playoffs because you got the 2 best corners of the league on that team, and you got good linebackers, good defensive line. I'm ready to see where that rocks. Offense, you have a good running back in the Leonard Fournette, pretty good receivers, and Blake Bortles, like I was saying, we'll have to see what he does during the regular season. But after that, things will get interesting. So if they can get into the playoffs, at some point we will probably do a playoff picture or like a seed list and something. I don't know if we're doing that today. It will catch me off guard if he chooses to do that, but I'm completely ready. And then, so that's pretty much what I got to say about that.
All right, thank you. And yes, I kind of did want to do playoff seeding. I meant to talk to you about that before we started recording, but just a quick little playoff picture and like who goes to the Super Bowl. You don't have to do matchup for matchup, like, oh, this team faces this team in the wild card. You can just give me like 1 through 6 who makes it to the Super Bowl and why out of the 6. So just to make sure that we don't go over our limit. But I do have the Indianapolis Colts in 4th place at 5-11, just like you. Making a slight change here. Still in 3rd place though, the Houston Texans at 9-7. I got the Tennessee Titans at 9-7 for 2nd place, and I have the Jaguars at 10-6. Now the records are kind of weird in that division. I'll explain why here in just a moment. For the Colts, we pretty much hit on everything, man. You have Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton, Jabal Sheard, and Malik Hooker. I can't really tell you who else is on the team. I mean, I could, obviously. You got Quentin Nelson as their 1st-round draft pick. Braden Smith was a 2nd-round draft pick as the offensive line. I'm just going into detail. The people need to know this. There are people out there that are like, wow, they don't have anyone else on their team, so who fills in the other 49 spots? Well, I'm here to tell you. Okay? And they aren't the best. The Colts, yeah, it's just Andrew Luck. We'll see how he goes. The Texans, you pretty much hit on everything. My biggest concern is, number one, I don't know who their tight end is because C.J. Fedorowicz retired, and that offensive line ain't good. It's Seattle territory bad. Just based on the roster and, like, how it's looking. That defense is talented, but they got to stay healthy. They literally have, like, 3 guys who have a lot of injury history. They know who I'm talking about. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, and Tyrann Mathieu. If y'all could all stay healthy, y'all might win more than 9 games. But I'm going to have y'all at 9-7 for now. Tennessee gets a new coach. I'm going to have them go 9-7. And the reason I have all these records kind of weird is because these teams just beat up on each other. Like, obviously, there's going to be a standout team at the end of it because someone's got to win the division, which I have Jacksonville winning. But Tennessee beat Jacksonville twice. Houston, they split with Tennessee, and the Colts split with Tennessee. The Colts didn't beat the Jaguars at all. The Jaguars, I believe, split with the Texans. I'm not 100% sure. I believe they did. They probably didn't. But they just beat up on each other a lot. So that's why I have the Titans going 9-7. They do have a complete roster. If they're weak at any position, it's probably at receiver. Like, they don't have, like, an elite receiver. They have a lot of number 2 and number 3 guys with talent. And then the Jaguars, you already touched on their talent. My biggest concern for them is probably Blake Bortles in the regular season. But he's a postseason quarterback, and this team has postseason talent and Super Bowl potential. But I do have them at 10-6 because I think that schedule isn't going to be the easiest. And that's what I got to say about that.
Okay.
Now, we're going to take it out west, the AFC West, and then we'll get into the playoff picture and all that cool stuff. So, Aaron, why don't you tell us about the AFC West and the teams out there?
In the AFC West, at the bottom of the pack, I have another 5-11, and that's going to be the Broncos. I have in 3rd place the Raiders at 7-9, or 7-9. In 2nd place, I got the Chiefs at 9-7, and then in 1st place, I got the Chargers at 10-6. The Broncos, I have them at 5-11 because, I mean, you could have Kirk Cousins on your team out, but yet you choose to go Case Keenum, dilly, like you. You got your defense is getting old, and I would have rather had Kirk Cousins than Case Keenum, that's for sure. I have the Raiders 7-9 because John Gruden hasn't coached in a long time, and everybody expects them to do good. Me and JJ both agreed this is going to be the dumpster fire of this season. This is going to be the Raiders. And I mean, you have players, but I don't care who you have on the team. You have to have a good coach. Example, Cleveland Browns. Chiefs 9-7. You got to give that offense a year to get chemistry. Don't expect them to be as good as Tyreek Hill thinks it's going to be this year. Wait a year, and then you might have it. Pretty good, not pretty good quarterback. I mean, we have to see. Obviously, I'm not somebody that just jumps them. I need somebody that just doesn't throw it deep every play. I need someone that I know I can rely on. And that defense, very leads it pretty damn good in certain situations. Then I have the Chargers at 10-6. They've been haunted by injury. Hopefully, barring injury, this team's going to be great. You got Phillip Rivers, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Don't sleep on that receiving core. Pretty good receiving core. Mike Williams didn't get to play last season because of injuries. And little stat that JJ was telling me about. I'll let him say it in his turn. About the all the rookie receivers. If you know what I get, JJ, how would you say it?
Yeah.
And then decent defense. I feel like Joey Bosa, and then you got they're gonna be a good team barring injuries. Back to you, JJ.
Thank you, and we have a slight change right here. So I had at 6 and 10, I have the Raiders and Broncos, but the Broncos are going to be 4th place, and the Raiders are going to be 3rd place. The Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to stick with 7 and 9 for the Chiefs, and then the Chargers at 9 and 7, winning the division. This is similar to the AFC South. They all beat up on each other, but someone's got to come out as the number 1, and I have that being the Chargers. The defense is getting older for the Broncos, and the offense is getting older for the Broncos, and they're not really making the biggest improvements. You bring in Case Keenum, and I had some news about Kirk Cousins I forgot to mention. I'm going to go ahead and mention it right now because I totally forgot. Apparently, rumored, he turned down a $90 million guaranteed contract with the Jets to join the Vikings. Ooh. So, quick thoughts on that before I continue.
I guess you go to a contender, and the Vikings are definitely a contender. So.
Yeah, and follow-up question, just real quick. Obviously, I know the answer, but do you think getting Kirk Cousins would have changed their draft strategy?
Which team?
The Jets. Do you think it would have changed their draft strategy? Maybe they don't go quarterback? Yes. Okay, I figured it was an obvious answer. I just wanted to know. Yeah, anyway, so, yeah, they could have had Kirk Cousins, like you said. The Broncos could have. They settled for Case Keenum. If you ask me, I'll take Keenum. I'm just playing. I'll take Cousins 10 times out of 10. Keenum is like a flash in the pan. He's like a one-year wonder. If you take away his best season and his worst season, you know what you're getting, which is an average quarterback. At least with Kirk Cousins, we know what we're getting year from year. That's really all I have to say about that. Nice draft pick with Bradley Chubb, by the way. The Oakland Raiders, John Gruden hasn't coached in over a decade. They're adding a lot of older players, which, veteran leadership is important. They're adding Jordy Nelson, and they just picked up Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, DRC, like last weekend. But it definitely is going to take a year, maybe even more than that, for John Gruden to get settled back in as being an NFL head coach. Because when you go away for a decade, so much has happened in that decade in the NFL, and a lot of stuff has changed. Teams play differently. The RPO is a thing now, so now you have to prepare for that. And I don't think this Raiders defense is going to be that good to stop it, because if good defenses were struggling against the RPOs like the Vikings and Falcons and even the Patriots down the stretch, how are the Raiders going to stop it? Just for example. And let's see here. The Chiefs, I feel like it's an experimental season. You have Patrick Mahomes. You want to see what he can do. You're going to display him at all costs, whether you're trying to win or lose. That's really up to you. You're really just going to display his talent. And you have Kareem Hunt, Sammy Watkins, and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. The offensive line's decent. The defensive line, I feel like it's just missing something. Oh, maybe that's because Dontari Poe left 2 years ago and Benny Logan left last year. So maybe that's it, a defensive tackle. You lose Marcus Peters, and you get Kendall Fuller via trade for Alex Smith. So if you ask me, I'll take Marcus Peters. I know Kendall Fuller's a slot guy, but I need someone that can guard the number 1 receiver and play pretty well against him. So that's just me. And Ron Parker, no longer on the team. It's just Eric Berry chilling at safety. 7 and 9 for them. And then finally the Chargers. The stat about rookie receivers that Aaron is talking about is the top 3 receivers last year in terms of their draft order. So we're talking Corey Davis at 5, Mike Williams at 7, and John Ross at 9. All 3 had significant injuries last season, and they all get the comeback. Yeah, they all get the comeback, clean slate, and I feel like all 3 of them are going to be pretty good this year. Now, I don't think the Bengals are going to be good. The Titans and Chargers, yes, I agree. They'll be pretty good teams this year. Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, number 1 in terms of sacks as a duo, the most productive pass rush in football. And their secondary is really good. The only weakness for me is probably maybe adding another offensive lineman and maybe another linebacker. But that's really it. I feel like they're pretty good. And with that, we've covered all 4 divisions in the AFC. Now we must give our playoff picture. So just tell us who you have based on your records, if you have your copy written down or
First
whatever.
seed, Jaguars.
Okay.
The second seed, you got the Patriots. It's the third seed. You have the Chargers. The fourth seed, you have the Texans. The fifth seed, you got the. Give me just a second. You got the. You got this is where I'm thinking real quick, okay? Because this is gonna be either beat the way. You
Okay.
got the Titans at the 5th seed, the Chiefs at the 6th seed.
So okay, so based on that, so how can the Texans be the 4th seed if the AFC South already has Jacksonville at number 1? Because the top 4. Okay, so the top 4 are occupied by division winners, so you can't have Jacksonville and Houston in your top 4.
Not bad.
It's cool. I didn't want to cut you off in the middle of it. That's why I waited.
Yeah, you got me off guard now.
Well, I mean, our top 4 is pretty much the same. Patriots, Steelers, Jaguars, Chargers, whatever order that's in. Those are the 4 teams.
How did I forget the Steelers, man? So how would I word this then? So Jaguars at number 1, right?
Yeah. Well, for your predictions, yeah.
And then the I can put the Steelers at 2.
Mhm.
Patriots at 3.
Mhm.
And you said you can't put the Texans at 4?
Yeah, because they're in the AFC South, so they'd have to be the 5th seed, most likely, depending on your scenario. So it'd probably be the Chargers.
Yeah, then the Chargers at 4, and then I could put the Texans at 5, though, right?
Yeah, if they have a better record than whoever you have at 6, then yeah, or the same record, whatever.
Texans at 5, and then I'm gonna have to put the Chiefs at 6.
All right, so I do want to give you a fun stat, by the way. When the Patriots aren't the 1 or 2 seed, they don't go to the Super Bowl. So basically, you're telling me they're not going to the Super Bowl because they don't have home field advantage.
Yes.
All right, so who is going to be representing the AFC in your Super Bowl out of those 6 teams?
Jaguars.
All right. You can tell me why if you want to, but we already covered it, so you don't necessarily have to.
That's private information.
Yeah. Just because playoff Bortles is the GOAT, right?
No, dude. But seriously, I'm gonna have the Jaguars because, like I said, that defense wins championships, and guess who's going to the championship?
100% facts. The Eagles won the championship last year. They have a defense. My number 1 is, just based on my predictions, my number 1 is going to be the Patriots, followed by the Jaguars at 2. So both those teams are going to have first-round byes. At 3, I have Pittsburgh. At 4, I have the LA Chargers. At 5, I have the Baltimore Ravens. And at 6, I have the Tennessee Titans. And out of those 6 teams, I'm going to pick Pittsburgh to represent the AFC. Now, I know it kind of... To go to the Super Bowl, yeah. I know it kind of contradicts what I said earlier about defense winning championships. But, yeah, so, the reason I have Pittsburgh going... You get Aaron?
So, we're pretty much good with the AFC now, right?
Yeah, but I was going to tell you why I have Pittsburgh going just real quick. The reason I have them going, I know it contradicts what I said about defense winning championships. I just said they'd get there. I didn't necessarily say they'd win, but they definitely have a Super Bowl roster. I feel like if they do have a weakness, it's probably at inside linebacker due to the Shazier injury and probably an elite corner. But outside of that, man, I think they're a pretty good team. They do have a nice defense. That 3-4 zone blitz ain't never leaving Pittsburgh. So I feel like they're going to be a pretty good team. And who knows, man, maybe they get a favorable playoff matchup towards the end. Who knows? So, yeah, that's going to cover the AFC pretty much.
All right, well, they'll see us in the NFC, right?
Yeah, part 2 is going to be the NFC, and we'll also reveal who makes it to the Super Bowl in the NFC, and then we'll talk about who wins the Super Bowl.
All right, bro.
All right, talk to you, and